Welcome everyone to Bite the Bullet. I'm your host, Jay Reese, and thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of what I am sure is going to be a great, awesome show. And I say that because we have Barry Overton with us, and I met this gentleman through the Les Brown Power Voice course, and he is nothing less than awesome. And I say that because his record, first of all, speaks for itself. And once I bring him on and you guys get to see his personality and the way he just speaks with integrity and regalness, is that a word? Well, I'm making it a word. Regalness is just you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But enough with the badgering. Let me go ahead and bring him on in a proper fashion and read off his credentials. Barry Overton is a veteran of the Gulf War, retired police detective with 26 years of law enforcement experience, and also has started many different business endeavors, including concert promotion, catering, a security alarm company, and real estate, which his highly successful real estate business has spanned over 19 years. However, Barry's most recent venture includes being an Amazon best-selling author of his newly released first book, Ignite Your Greatness. But Barry isn't stopping there. He is booking multiple in-person and virtual speaking engagements around the globe because Barry believes life is short. Therefore, we should live each day with the intention of fulfilling our dreams and doing the things that makes us happy. His purpose is to share with others how to identify their greatness and live it to their fullest expectations every day. Oh my God, I love that because that is what we are about here at Bite the Bullet. So without further ado, without any more ramble, let me go ahead and bring on Barry Overton. What is up, my guy?
Oh man, I was listening and I was like, who is he bringing up?
I'm talking about you, man. Dude, you have such we were talking before I brought you on to the show about my first experience getting to know you. I got the privilege of hearing a lot of your story of why you do the things you do and why you want to actually help people, right? And ever since that moment, I have always respected you and, dare I say, been impressed, inspired, and motivated by you. And I think that's why a lot of us do what we do. We want to lead by example, right? So, Barry, if you don't mind, could you tell the audience in your own words a little bit about your story?
Yeah, and before I jump into that, I just definitely want to say thank you for having me be a part of the show and being on this platform. This is, again, it's needed. And we live in a time right now where so many people are searching, for that thing inside. We all know that we have something special inside of us. And sometimes it takes a podcast like this for someone to hear something that's that spark for them. And so being the messenger and sharing that and sharing all these different stories that you've been able to do is a major service that you're bringing. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. You are more than welcome.
Absolutely. And just to kind of go back into my story a little bit, one of the biggest things for me that I tell people every day is to dream and never stop dreaming. And I always go back to childhood. And I think we think as kids, what do we dream about? We can think of some pretty outlandish things that we had in our dreams.
Right.
In mine, I wanted to be Superman, and I saw George Reeves. This is the old black and white Superman on TV. That was my guy. I ran around the neighborhood with the cape around my neck. It was a terry cloth towel with the safety pin.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, man. But you couldn't tell me I wasn't Superman. And in my mind, that's what I believed that I could grow up to be. But I can tell you through the course of having self-doubt and more so having people around you that you trust, like family and friends, telling you that you can't do something, it can whittle away at that dream and that vision that you have. But I can tell you, for me, that the vision changed over time. It went from, okay, maybe not Superman, but there's a reality I can be an NFL player. And that was what I wanted to do in life. And probably one of my biggest lessons in life came when I spent about 8 years from 7 to about 15, the age of 7 to the age of 15, of saying, you know what, I'm gonna play in the NFL. And when I got to about 15 years of age, something happened, and it just created some doubt in, can I do this? And I was a little bitty. I was a skinny kid. I was tall, but I was skinny, and I was a wide receiver, and I was running across the middle, taking shots that I didn't like taking. And those shots made me start to question, what I wanted to do in regards to playing in the NFL. And I quit on my dream. And for me, that stuck with me from 15. It probably stuck with me till 40. The what if? Yeah, it was really one of those, because as I grew up and went into adulthood and went into other, I continued to have visions, and I followed some of them. But there was this big dream that I had as a kid of playing in the NFL that stuck with me for so long. And life has a funny way of working. I have a lot of friends that are former NFL athletes. So it kept putting me in the position of, man, what if I would have stuck with it? Because I see what this guy's career was and this guy's career was. What would mine have been? And the biggest lesson I think I've ever learned in life was the lesson of regret and never wanting to feel the what if again.
Yeah.
And that was really when I decided to go into law enforcement. I was 17 years old. I made a decision. I put a plan in place, and that plan was signing up into the military, because I couldn't be a police officer right after I graduated high school. I had to be 21. But I told myself, what if I go into an area where I can learn law enforcement, and when I turn 21, go into a civilian job? And literally, I put the plan. I went into the Army. I was a military police officer. I spent 3.5 years in the Army. Part of that time, that's last 6 months of my time in the military, I was at Desert Storm, and I fought, during the first Gulf War. And when I came back, I was a police officer with a small town in Alabama. And then I eventually went to Denver Police Department, where I spent 21 years there. But again, the one thing when I look back on it is I've always realized, if I have a vision and I put a plan in front of it, and then the most important piece is I execute on the plan, I can achieve anything that I set my mind to.
Wow, dude, so you're that young and you're already in the mindset of knowing what you want to do, and knowing maybe not necessarily how to execute it, but to put steps in place to go after it. Because I can tell you, at 18, I had no clue. And I think that was mostly because fear was ruling me at that time. So let me ask you, at that point in your life, was it that you were just that passionate of becoming a police officer, or what exactly was it motivating you? How was fear not in your way?
It goes back to the Superman. So I often tell people that's where it first started. I wanted to be Superman.
Okay.
Well, as an NFL football player, I would have been viewed by fans as, man, this guy is super. Superman, right?
Yeah.
And I looked at from a law enforcement standpoint. We wear a bulletproof vest and putting your life.
Okay.
And again, so I always tell people, okay, I had this vision of Superman, and I, in essence, did turn out to be my own Superman. And my biggest role model growing up was my uncle. He was the first Black sergeant, lieutenant, and captain of the Austin Police Department. And this was my inspiration at 17, because the biggest thing is, I grew up in poverty. We had a period where we were homeless. We had a
Mm-hmm.
period where I stayed in a foster care facility,
Okay.
short period of time. It wasn't the greatest childhood, and I say it wasn't the greatest, but it was an amazing childhood. Yet,
Mm-hmm.
because so many lessons that I learned, but the biggest lesson is I knew that I didn't want my life to look like that as an adult. So that's where the drive and the purpose was, is I knew that I could change it because I did have my role model of my uncle, and I saw what his life looked like, and,
Right.
and how he raised his kids. And I had other people that were in my life, and I knew that life could be better. So I was always seeking that out. And it is odd, I guess, to be at a very young age and taking notes of
Mm-hmm.
how people are living their lives and knowing that I wanted to have something better.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, at 17, I was between my junior and senior year of high school, but I
Mm-hmm.
already enlisted and basically told the military, I said, I made a promise and signed off on it and said, 20 days after I graduate, I'm coming to you to be in the U.S. Army, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to be a military police officer. The
Mm-hmm.
contract was signed when I was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
So it was just, knowing what I wanted to do. And then you mentioned it, the fear, because that's the biggest, the wedge between the vision and the planning and the
Mm-hmm.
execution. In the middle of that is the fear, because the execution means, okay, I've got the vision, I've put the
Mm-hmm.
together. Now we got to make it happen. Now we got to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fear and the doubt and all the things that can come into play are
Right.
that can keep you from executing. But I reverse engineered fear. So what I did is I was more fearful of staying in my current situation than
Mm-hmm.
moving ahead to something the unknown, that I really didn't know what this
Yeah.
was going to look like. But hey, I'm willing to take a shot on it because it's got to be better than where I'm at right now.
It's funny to hear you say that, because I know for me, when I was back in that transitional state, excuse me, of that transitional state of leaving the nest and having to figure out what I was going to do with my life, I was petrified, to
Mhm.
be honest. And I knew I wanted to entertain. At that time, I thought I wanted to be an actor and celebrity and stuff like that. But at the core of it, I just wanted to entertain and make people happy and tell people it's going to be okay. That I knew that was at my core, because that's what that's how I was already living my life. I was the class clown. I like to make people laugh, and it wasn't necessarily for attention. It's just I just like to have a good time, and I wanted others around me to do the same. So when I was forced, when I graduated school, there was this period. I remember my father coming to me. He was like, "Hey, I don't know what you're gonna do. What you do is your destiny. But if you're gonna stay here, you got to find a job, and you're only gonna be stay here until like for a year." So with that in the back of my mind, I was like, "Okay, I know I don't want to stay in this town. I know I want to go and do something. I know I want to entertain people, but in all honesty, I was completely afraid and terrified. So I joined the military only because I didn't know what else to do, to be honest. So for me, I let fear dictate where I was going. And hearing what you're saying, you let fear motivate you to propel you to where you wanted to go. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yeah. I really felt like I had to reverse engineer fear
Yeah.
and use it as something that would propel me instead of using it as something that was an obstacle
Mm-hmm.
to hold me back.
Right. So you you transitioned from veteran to police officer while you are still serving the country.
Yeah.
Did you start your businesses while you were a police officer, or did you wait till you retired? Which I gotta say, 26 years in law enforcement, dude. Let me go ahead, and because I have several friends who are police officers, and it is not an easy job, regardless of what field you try to go into as an officer. It's not easy. So thank you for your service, for both services.
Yeah.
But again, like, which did you start those businesses while you were as a cop, or did you wait till you retired?
I actually started them while I was a police officer. And again, it was all part of the plan. See, going back to my uncle, that was a role model.
Yeah.
He was a real estate investor. He had rental properties.
Okay.
And so again, he was my view of what success looked like. So I told myself, okay, once I get the police law enforcement part set, I got to the place where I knew I was going to have a long career. I said, now let's look at these entrepreneurial endeavors. And I can tell you, you know, as a kid, I think we all, again, have dreams of being some type of business owner. You know, for me at that time, I wanted to be a nightclub owner.
Yeah.
And I liked entertainment. I can't sing a lick, so I wasn't gonna go that route of performance.
Right.
But I wanted to be able to be in some type of you know, play a part in that arena. So I started with when Foxy Brown first came out. I was one of the investors in her doing shows here in the Denver area. And
oh wow.
Yeah, and I learned how to promote concerts through the guys that I was investing in.
So just so we clear, sorry to interrupt. So you're talking about the rapper Foxy Brown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Way
all
back.
right. All right.
Yeah, but so I started with that, and then I started putting on some of my own shows. And man, I was in a catering business with my nephew. I had a security alarm business.
Yeah.
Period of time, and then I got into real estate. It'll be 20 years this year, so it was 2001. I got into real estate.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I've always just had this entrepreneurial spirit. Right now, I'm looking into the digital and tech space. You know, I'm not done. I'm still going in regards to some of the other ventures that I'm looking into.
So let me ask, why keep doing multiple things? Why not just find your lane and stay in it? You know? Well,
you know, yeah, I think I'm on the Autobahn in Germany, you know, where they got multiple lanes, and and it goes back to what I mentioned a minute ago about regret. And so it really, you know, when I have this desire to do something, I do research on it, and it's not kind of a whimsical thing that I say, oh, I want to do this today. And no, I really do my research on it. And I say, you know what, this is an area that I want to tap into, and I want to figure out, yeah, I got these other endeavors, but I want to figure out how I can do this as well. Because I tell you, you know, I'm 52 now. There will come a time when I can't, you know, from an energy level, do things that I'm doing right now. And I don't want to be at, you know, 75, 80 years old thinking to myself, man, I wish I would have started that, because that's where I was at 40 when I knew there was no walking on to an NFL team at 40. And I just
it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. But, you know, with me, because at that point I had torn meniscus in both knees. It wasn't going to happen for me. But I just want to be in that place of regret, and I take that regret as just a huge lesson that I'm moving forward in my life. And anytime I have a desire to do something, I figure out how to do it.
So Bear, you bring up a lot of good points. Regret, just going out there and living your life to the fullest and doing everything that you want to do and what you set out to do, right? So I know I'm this type of person that there are multiple things that I know that I want to achieve in this world. So for me, a lot of times I find it difficult to know what project to start and what project to stop. You seem to be you are a very focused, driven individual who has started multiple things, right? So as you mentioned a second ago, you take the time to research and figure out what your next endeavor is. What does that kind of look like for you? Because I'm sure you're a man who does not want to waste his time. So how do you go about that process of knowing what you want to start and where your passion lies?
And it comes down to something pretty simple, and it's just two things. Am I fulfilling this happiness inside of me? Or do I have a sense of fulfillment, and do I have a sense of happiness with what I'm doing? Yeah. And you know, a lot of times, depending on, you know, if it is a business and is it generating revenue? Yeah. That's almost like the number 3, because if I know other people that are doing this type of business and they're generating revenue,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm not, then I know, okay, there's some things that I need to adjust because
Hmm.
it's already proven that you can
Right.
generate revenue from it. If I'm not, then I need to make some adjustments. But more
Hmm.
importantly, am I happy with what I'm doing right now? And do I feel a sense of fulfillment? Is it something that's providing a service or benefit or inspiring other people? So if those two things are being met, then typically it's the thing for me to do and keep
Okay.
moving forward with it, even if it's a struggle with
Hmm.
in the process. Because a lot of times I realize, one of my favorite books is Outwitting the Devil, and I
Okay.
often look at yeah, often in the book, Napoleon Hill is the author of the book, and he's basically doing an interview of the devil, and the devil gives all these secrets of
Yeah.
how he distracts and how he gets people to drift off of their vision.
Hmm.
And one of those areas is, again, making when people start to feel fear, when they start to feel doubt, when they
Hmm.
start to get frustrated with the things that they're doing,
Right.
that's the devil at work. And how I look at
Mm.
it as, if I am frustrated with something that gives me joy and
Hmm.
a sense of fulfillment, I know that I'm supposed to be here, but I look at it, okay, the devil is at work, because now I know I'm really on the right track because he's
Right.
trying to get me off. So, and that's really just kind of the mindset that I've had in regards to those things. And I can tell you, going from 2020 into 2021, there
Hmm.
have been some things, because I have a lot of volunteer and humanitarian
Hmm.
duties as well, and
Right.
I've had to let some of those areas go
Hmm.
because there's some new areas that have stepped up that I want to be a part of. And so it's a balancing act. And my wife will definitely tell you, from a health standpoint, it
Hmm.
becomes very important that I'm getting my sleep and that I'm not, creating anxiety, but taking on too much. So, there's conversations within myself, there's conversations with my family of
Hmm.
making sure that all those things are balanced at the same time.
So, um, I love the fact that you brought up how when you know you're about to go into a new endeavor, you have to be aware of what needs to be let go, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I find that interesting, mostly because I was in a meeting with some people last night, and that was exactly what we were discussing. Because so many people are trying to do this, do that, do this, do that, and do this, but then they don't want to let go of anything else in their life. So, as you're saying, they become stressed out, they become moody, and they become unbalanced. And it's so great to be able to hear you say that you actually have conversations with your family, you internalize it, you go through all these different processes to make sure, one, that is right for you, two, is right for your family, and that everything is balanced, because
Yeah.
that is so important. So what exactly does that look like for you, if that question makes sense?
Yeah, and I share this story. Not many people even know this because it just recently happened.
Mm,
But during the time that I was launching the book, so I had a book launch.
yeah.
It was a video, it was about an hour and a half book launch that was on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Interview with Mr. Brown,
Mhm.
discussing the book.
Yeah.
And in the middle of that, I'm having my biggest one of my biggest months in real estate at the same time. So there's a lot to balance.
Right.
Again, I have
Hmm.
an event that I put on for police
Hmm.
officers. It was a breakfast I was doing in December. These nonprofits that I'm a part of, and some government entities that I sit on commissions and things of that nature. So
Hmm.
all these different things going on. And
Hmm.
it was during that time that all of a sudden, and I could not figure it out, but I could not sleep. I had insomnia, I had anxiety, I had these feelings
Right.
of the walls closing in on
Hmm.
me. And it's the first time in my life that I had ever experienced that. And I sat down with the counselor, and she literally wrote down a list of everything that I'm doing and showed it to me and said, "You got a lot going," you know.
Right.
And the thing about it is, I've done that all my life, so it felt normal to me. And
Hmm.
Well, sometimes the body will tell you that you got to slow down. You got to
Absolutely. Yeah.
listen to your body.
Mhm.
And that was really the first time in my life that I said, okay, I got to have, find the balance, because I got to keep going, and there's a lot of motivational speakers that I've listened
Mhm.
to and that we've heard that
Yeah.
will tell us grind, 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 and sleep is for suckers and all these different things.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt. That's how I
Mhm.
approach life. But I also realized, no, sleep is for humans. We got to have sleep to survive, and we got
Right.
a certain amount of it. And that
Mhm.
was the thing. I was going on 4 or 5 hours sleep for so much time.
Mhm.
It really kind of caught up to me. So that was a part of it, of just realizing. And again, why do I do this? I do this for my family. And
Mhm.
but when I'm not giving them, I'm neglecting my family because
Yeah.
time wise, and not giving them the time that they need. It's
Mhm.
almost like, okay, I'm doing this for my family, but I'm not seeing my family. So
Mhm.
something had to give. So there is really trying to find that balance of being that go-getter, being, on the grind and hustling, but doing it in a standpoint where again, you have good balance with yourself from a mental standpoint, from an
Mhm.
emotional standpoint.
Right.
Your family is happy with you. You're happy with your family,
Mhm.
and just so it is, that in itself is a skill to try and to figure it out and develop it, but
Uh-huh.
it's necessary.
Mm. No, I agree with you completely. And let me recognize for a second the fact that you knew something was unbalanced. So you went to speak to a counselor, because I know there are still so many stigmas about going to talk to someone in therapy and all that stuff. So thank you for being able to come on here and share that you've done that. And I hope there are a lot of people out there who, if you feel exactly the same way, please seek help, find a counselor. There's nothing wrong with it. Everybody has issues that they need to resolve at some point, sometime, somehow. So let me ask, in a second ago, you were mentioning how so many motivational speakers out there, so many people who are in the positive space, they'll tell you, oh, grind, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. As you said, sleep is for suckers. So much information out there where if that works for you, I can't knock it personally. But
Mhm.
I know, like you're saying, like me, I need my sleep. Like if I don't get anywhere from 7 to 8 hours, I don't have the best day, to be honest. That's just me. So I know that I have to go to bed around anywhere from 9:30 to 10 o'clock. That's usually my goal of my window of when I go to sleep. And then I wake up early in the morning, right? So how do you know what information to trust and not trust? Because you and I know there are some very influential people out there spreading information that might not be best for everybody. So
Mhm.
how do you know what information to trust and kind of just push to the side?
Yeah, that's a great question. And because I think for me,
Mhm.
I looked at the success that certain people have, and
Mhm.
I always want to get into their minds.
Mhm.
So, funny thing is, I get my information from people like, for instance, Kobe Bryant. The last
Mhm.
chapter in my book is on Kobe Bryant, and very little of it is about his basketball career.
Yeah.
It's more so about his mindset. Because
Mhm.
when you look at like the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, anyone that has had great success,
Right.
and you look at their childhood and
Mhm.
where it all started. Both of them, had these aspirations of playing in the NBA at a high level at a very
Mhm.
young age. And we know the story about Michael Jordan not making his high school basketball,
Right. Yeah.
a very inspirational story. But when you
Mhm.
look at The Last Dance, if you saw the documentary on the Chicago Bulls, there's a lot
Mhm.
of people that looked at that and saw, okay, man, this guy was kind of a bully and a tyrant, but his teammates
Right.
tell you, yeah, he
Mhm.
was, but we won 6 rings because of that. If he was
Mhm.
not that way, we wouldn't have done the things that we did as a team.
Mhm.
There's so many people that have played with him that talked about how he elevated their game because
Mm.
of pushing them. And so I look at that mindset. And then Kobe was, they were having these secret conversations that we later found out after Kobe's
Mhm.
death. but he was mentoring Kobe, and you could see a lot of how Kobe worked with his teammates and treated his teammates. It was much of the same thing.
Yeah.
One thing that I look at in regards to them, because you can say they were phenomenal basketball players, but I look at they're just, that's true greatness, because they took what they did on the basketball court, they moved it into business. I mean, you look at what the Jumpman and the Jordan shoes have been able to do, and then you look at the fact that Kobe retired from the NBA, and within a year or shortly after retiring, he won an Oscar for a 15-minute animated film. You know, again, a totally different arena than the NBA, but it goes to show you that this guy was driven. And he had a podcast himself that was a kids-related podcast. And some of the things that he had planned that to do were, I mean, it would have been amazing to see Kobe Bryant at 70, 80 years old in the body of work that he would have left behind. But the beauty of it is, one of my favorite things to do is go on to YouTube and just Kobe Bryant, not look at basketball games, but listen to his words and listen to his mindset at 20 and at 30 and when he hit his early 40s. So to go back to your question, it's really, I look at I can hear a speaker speak, but I want to see the behavior. I want to see the results that they've achieved first. And that's when I decide if this is the speaker that I want to learn more about, because I'm really diving into not just the words that I hear them saying, but how they operate on a daily basis.
And see, you're reminding me of one of my favorite quotes from James Baldwin, and it goes to something to the effect of, "I can't believe what you say because I see what you do." Right?
Yeah.
So, and that's one of my favorite quotes. And like I heard that maybe 15, 20 years ago. And that's just something that I always live my life by, because I'm a person that loves to connect and be around people. And I'll listen to what you say. I'll believe you until your behavior contradicts that. Right. Yeah. And to be honest, I'm not really much of a sports guy. However, I find myself gravitating towards different influential sports athletes, because like you're saying, there's something about that drive. There's something about that work ethic that transcends their particular sport to business, to life, etc. Right? So with that being said, again, like when I read your credentials off in the beginning, you have done so much with the life you've already had. And I already know you have plenty more stuff coming down the pipeline, God willing, right? So you have a real estate business that is about to celebrate 20 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
About to celebrate 20 years. So I know there had to be some type of work ethic in you. What were the challenges you probably faced while building your real estate company, and how did you overcome those?
Probably some of the biggest challenges were balancing time, because again, I'm a police officer full time.
Right.
And Denver Police Department basically said, yeah, we'll let you sell real estate, but you understand this job comes first.
So hold on, I'm sorry to interrupt, Barry. So yeah, I completely overlooked that fact that you, at this time that you're starting a real estate company, you're working as a police officer. And I know police officers usually work 12 hours?
Right? I was fortunate that most of my career I worked 8 or 10 hours. Yeah.
Right. But even still, because I know real estate agents are usually somewhat at the mercy of their clients, of being able to show them houses and all this stuff. But a police officer, you got to kind of be out there on the field. So again, how was that balanced?
And the fortunate thing about my career when I started in real estate is most of my clients were police officers also.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I really just I didn't do a whole lot of advertising. And all my friends and people that I were connected to were in law enforcement, sheriffs or firemen or police. So they had an appreciation for the fact that I had this full-time job. And that you've probably heard the cliche that you're not a police officer 8 hours a day. You're a police officer 24/7. so they could appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, and at one point in my marriage, my wife was my previous wife was a realtor also. So I
Mm-hmm.
was able, if I wasn't able to be there, she was able to be there. Even
Okay.
after our divorce, I had
Mhm.
to, again, I just had to figure out, okay, do I take comp time to get off early, or can we go
Mhm.
see it after I get off work?
Yeah.
And fortunately, I was able to make that work in most instances. But it was still, again, because I didn't just work an 8-hour day. A lot of times I
Mhm.
was working, 12, 16 hours, just depending on all of a sudden, okay, now I show a few houses after I get off work. Now I got
Right.
to write a contract
Mhm.
and negotiate with the realtor. So, there was some balancing just in
Mhm.
regards to the time that I was putting in.
Right.
But again, it was that when I did real estate, my
Mhm.
clients were a priority, just like my job was a priority.
Yeah.
Because again, as a realtor, people are putting their trust in you with the biggest investment in their life, and
Right.
they got to know that you have their back
Mm.
when it comes to that.
Mhm. Dude, that is remarkable. And it's like the whole time I'm listening to you, one of the only things that I can think of is how when you are set in your purpose and when you are balanced, the universe pulls everything in your favor and helps you out, which I'm sure in the storm, it probably definitely still was challenging. But
Yeah,
looking back on it and hearing you tell me now that you were lucky enough to have a job that you still were able to work with people who respected and understood. And plus, you were saying like your wife was a realtor and everything seemed to balance itself out.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you just said it. I think the universe will conspire with you when you are focused on
Yeah.
your goals. The universe will conspire with you to
Mhm.
help you achieve them,
Yeah.
and that's really how I've looked at it. Because when I look back on all the things that I've been able to do and been able to achieve, and even now, with writing this book and just being
Hmm.
pick up a phone and say, "Hey, Mr. John Tellerico, I would love to do a conversation with Les Brown
Hmm.
over my
Right.
book." And it's like, yeah, no problem. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, who does that? You know, universe is inspiring.
Uh-huh.
And so it's truly a blessing in one, but
Hmm.
also just knowing and realizing that when you set your mind to something,
Hmm.
and I also often talk about affirmations, and affirmations for me are really prayer. And
Hmm.
when you're in your affirmations and in prayer, those things will come into fruition. So I really kind of live in a mindset now
Mm.
that if I say that I'm going to do it, it's going to happen. I don't worry about how it's going to happen. It's just going to happen.
And see, that's a hard lesson that I had to learn because my head has always been in the clouds.
Mhm.
And for a long time, I've always been around, let's say, very realistic people who has to know the how,
Yeah.
like, so for me, that's always been challenging. But now I'm at a point in my life where I know, you know what, the how doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and figure out what I want, reverse engineer it and go for it.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about your book for a second. So, Ignite Your Greatness. How did you come up with the book and what's the book about?
So really the book was something that was in my head for about 4 years before I
Mhm.
decided to actually really go after it. Again, I had all these other endeavors, but I said, you know what? Before
Right.
something happens to me, I got to take
Hmm.
it from here and put it on paper and leave it for the world.
Right.
And I hired a book coach, and we started on it in the
Mm.
summer of 2019.
Okay.
Finished it up just towards the end of the summer of 2020. And it's really a theory in regards to greatness. We've all heard
Mm.
there's greatness in you.
Yeah.
And for a long time, that was in one ear, out the other. But at some point, it started to stick, and I started to
Right.
believe in the greatness in me. And my background as a police detective, I'm used to when I went into court to prove a case, I had to have all the evidence to prove the case. So the
Right.
first part of the book is kind of in three parts. The first
Mm.
part is proving to my reader that they
Hmm.
all have greatness inside of us. And I do it through a theory of really just showing you where greatness lies inside the body.
Right.
And the second part of the book is, now that I've got you to believe in your greatness,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's now talk about how to create that spark and ignite your greatness. And I give you what I talked about earlier as far as having the belief in the vision and planning and the execution. I lay that part out in the second part of the book. And then the last part is what I call evidence of greatness. And it's just stories of people that, you know, because we think of fame and fortune, we tie that to greatness. But these
Right.
people that are highly successful in whatever it is that they've been doing, that like in Denver, people know who they are, but the world doesn't know who they are. But as far as if you were to ask anyone that knew them, is this greatness? They say absolutely. And so I interviewed these folks. One of them is actually a social media influencer. His name is Billy Allsbrooks.
Okay.
My spiritual influencer and or spiritual mentor. And again, he's had a huge impact. One of those people, yet again, I reached out on the phone. He said, "Hey, let's do it. Let's do the interview." You know,
Right.
I'm touring with him this year. We'll be in Miami at the end of this month. But again, these are people that not the world knows just yet, but have had major impacts on their communities. So, you know, we've broken up the book into those three parts, and it's really the whole purpose of it is to get people to realize and understand we all have greatness in us. It's going to all look different because we were given these gifts by God, and all of our gifts are different. And it's really our job. You know, Mark Twain has a quote: "The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why."
Yes, sir.
That's our job, is to find that why. And then once we find it, run with it and share it with the world, because that's the impact that we make on the world.
So, igniting your greatness, what were the challenges that you faced bringing the book to the world? Because as an author myself, there were multiple issues that I had personally, but I knew my vision had to get out. If you don't mind sharing, what's at least one challenge that you had, and how did you overcome that challenge?
I say the biggest one was getting started. You know,
Oh, yes.
yeah,
Yes.
you know, because as I mentioned, I had it here for 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know where to start.
Right.
And it was one of those things where I kind of started crafting it and outlining what it's supposed to look like, but I
Right.
still hadn't started. And what happened, once again, you know, God, the universe, however you want to say it, was at work. My current wife now, at the time, she had met a lady that was a book coach. And actually, they sat down and, you know, she was thinking of the possibility of writing a book herself, which later she actually did. But when she sat down with this lady, she said, "You know what? I got someone that you need to meet." And she introduced us. And when I first met her, again, I put it on the back burner for probably about 4 or 5 months. But I knew that, okay, I need a book coach. I need someone that's going to hold me accountable, but also give me the mentorship that I need to be able to do this. And I can tell you, from that first conversation that I had with her, it shifted my whole thinking in regards to writing a book, of now having the confidence and knowing that I could do it. And then when we started the process, it was just constantly building the confidence of knowing that I can do this, and really starting to see the vision. So that was a huge step for me. And so again, just getting started was the biggest challenge. But it's like I said, it's that execution. We'll have the vision, we'll have the planning, and boom, that wedge of fear and doubt keeps us from the execution part.
So with the planning, did you have to tweak your plan at all throughout your process? Because I know a lot of people out there will think, this is my plan, this is the way it's got to work. But that's not exactly life. So did you have any issues, or however you laid out your plan, did it stay that way, or did you have to tweak it?
Oh no, it definitely had to change. It was changing on the fly. The plan was to have the book out by December of 2019. I came out November of 2020. So just right there, there was a shift in the plan. But also, again, God was at work with this, because there was the last chapter of my book, as I mentioned, is on Kobe Bryant, and I called it the final chapter. And what it's about is legacy. And it's about, if we live in our greatness in life, we will leave a legacy behind that long outlives us. So Napoleon Hill died in 1970, but I am the biggest inspiration in my life for personal development is Napoleon Hill. He's been gone. I was born in 68. He died in 70, but yet he's the biggest inspiration in my life. He's far outliving. His legacy is far outliving him. And Kobe Bryant will do the same thing. And that's what I talk about in the book, is how we outlive the time that we have here on earth. And that's by living in our greatness. So yeah, if I would have finished the book in December of 19, Kobe Bryant died in January of January 26th of 2020. That would have never been in my book. So I knew that the universe was saying, you know what, take your time with this. Jeremiah 29:11 is one of my favorite scriptures. And it's, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you a hope in a future. And I live in that, of knowing when my plan is not going the way it's supposed to, it's because God's plan is at work here. And so I rest easy with, I don't get frustrated when the plan doesn't fall into place, because I know there's something bigger at work.
Right. See, like, I'm a firm believer that when we make plans, God laughs. And he's not laughing because he's thinking we're silly. It's just that he already knows there's something else ordained that he's trying to give us. And if we just listen, we can follow through and get all the blessings that we so deserve. And I think that you are absolutely right, though, when you're saying that there are so many people out there who have a legacy that will transcend their life. To your point, Napoleon Hill, I think I've read As a Man Thinketh is Napoleon Hill. And I wasn't aware that he had Outwitting the Devil. That title alone makes me want to read that book. So it'll definitely be on my reading list. And Kobe Bryant, again, I'm not a sports person, but you can't go anywhere in the world without knowing who Kobe Bryant is. And his legacy will outlive, I think, a lot of us, just like Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, so many different other people whose names I'm sure I can keep rattling off for days. So at this point, let me go ahead and transition to the Bite the Bullet questions. So audience, these are questions if you haven't, or if you're not familiar with the show, which if you're not familiar with the show, where have you been and why haven't you been watching? That's my first question. But if you haven't been watching, I understand. I get it. These questions are a stack of questions that are rapid fire that Barry has not seen. He has no idea what is coming his way. And I'm sure he is quaking in his seat right now. Barry, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Bite the Bullet. You ready? All right. What motivates you to do what you do?
Number one, my kids. And I look at, just like my uncle was an inspiration to me, I want to be an inspiration to my kids. I want to be an inspiration to my nieces and nephews. And as I see them growing up, my son is 17, he's my youngest. But as I see them growing and developing, and my nieces and nephews, I know that I'm having an impact on their life. But now it's growing bigger, that I want to inspire, people in the Metro Denver area, people in Colorado, people all around the world. So it's really just being able, that's really what my purpose is to be able to be a service to others. And even if that service is inspiration to others.
I love it. I love it. What is the one common myth about your profession that you want to debunk?
Very easy for me to answer that. People think that it's you get your real estate license and you start making six figures just like that. Because I can tell you, when I post, and I have some friends that are very successful in real estate as well, and we post the glitz and glamour of real
Right.
estate. We don't post the grind, the hustle, the frustration, setbacks, and all that. Not many people are posting the negative things that are going on, in their businesses. You post a positive. And so I think that's I mentor quite a few very brand new real estate agents. And that's the first thing that I have to tell them is everything that you see me posting, man, that didn't happen this year. That happened 19 years plus this year.
Nice.
That went into being able to be at the point where I'm at now.
Wow. I think you're absolutely right. I was having a conversation with a friend / colleague a couple of days ago, and we were sitting there talking about how social media has become this place where a lot of people try to project their perfectness, right? And that's all they want to show you. And it's like life is more than that. Like there's challenges, there's ups, there's downs, there's all these different things that a lot of people don't show. I mean, I honestly think there's a trend now where more and more people are starting to show authenticity and realness. But for the most part, people are still trying to show that perfect bubble of their life and stuff like that. So yeah, it's great to hear that you actually mentor folks and let them know, like, hey, I know you saw me post this, but here's what the real part of it is.
Yeah.
So that's great. What's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career? Which I know you've had multiple careers, so we could pick any one of those, but what would you like to know when you first began your career?
I would say, and I would take just this time when I retired from the police department and went full-time entrepreneur. That was in 2013. So the thing that I think I would have wanted to know maybe 10 years earlier is not to be fearful of it and trust in my abilities and seeking the right mentors. And that's one thing right now is that I will, when I identify someone that I like what they're doing, I reach out to them, whether it's, a Les Brown or whether it's, someone that's just local right here, that if they can help me to grow into the very best version of me as a real estate agent or me as a speaker or whatever the case may be, don't be afraid to reach out to those mentors. Because one thing I learned is, man, highly successful people are very open and willing to share their talents and coach and teach others. So don't be afraid to reach out to those people.
So I agree with you completely. I think a lot of us forget how much power there is in just asking. Yeah, you might hear a no, but you might also hear a yes.
Yeah.
Right. So if I may ask, what does it look like for you when you reach out to, I don't know, someone who's like out there that if other people were look at the situation, they might be like, you crazy. I don't know why you wasting your time emailing this person because they ain't going to reply. But how does it look for you when you're reaching out to certain mentors that might be able to help you and you help them?
I'll give you an example. So the very first time that I did that was I was in a network marketing company. I was still with the police department, and a gentleman, his name is Rod Smith. This is probably my biggest personal mentor that I've had in my life. He's the reason I left the police department and had the success that I've had. Yeah. And he's a two-time Super Bowl champion with the Denver Broncos, 14 years in the NFL. Yeah. And he's coached many other people in network marketing that have become millionaires. And I reached out to him to try and bring him into my company. And I had just got started in my company. Yeah. And so there was a boldness there, but there was just a belief in myself. And he appreciated it to a standpoint of, I'm not coming to your company, but hey, I appreciate you reaching out and telling me about it. But on the way, let me show you a few things.
Right.
And so we developed this friendship that eventually a year and a half later, I came to his company. And the beauty of it is I was getting coached directly by him. I went to that company. 11 months later, I was able to retire from a 6-figure income as a police officer. Nice. So that was the very first time of stepping out where, like you said, other people would have looked at it and been like, "Are you nuts? Do you really
Right.
think you're going to be able to reach this guy?" And and again, there's just been multiple times that I've been able to do that. And some of the one thing I learned is very important in business and really life is the ability to network and connect people. So I'm very big on when I meet someone and I know that I have someone in my Rolodex, so to speak, that they know, I'll make that introduction. And then I'm not afraid to ask for those same types of introductions as well.
See, I'm getting better every year with learning how to network better and better and better each year, because I know that's something that isn't my strong suit yet. It's getting there. But so one of our shared mentors is John Tellerico, and I know one of the things that he always says is to don't. Wow, I just drew a blank. So I can't believe I forgot what he said. But okay, I digress. Let me go to the questions because that just went completely out my head. And gotta love live recordings. And wow, if you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Man, right off the top of the list, Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
Definitely be one of them. I would say probably Martin Luther King would be another.
Ooh.
And I'll give you real quick why on each one of those.
Yeah.
And I want to pick someone alive. Well, I would say there's so many, number one, but I would definitely say also Steve Jobs. So let me go back to Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
Napoleon Hill, when this question that you're asking, it's one of the principles in his book. He used to have these mastermind sessions with the likes of Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Edison, and these people were not even alive, but he would have in his head these mastermind sessions with folks. And he talked about in the book that they got so vivid to him that these people were actually showing up in his dreams in the middle of the night.
Okay.
And that nature. It's just a powerful way of thinking. And you look at if you get a chance to read Outwitting the Devil, you'll see the conversation that he's having with the devil in this book was incredible. So just to get into his mind and understand him, it'd be great to be able to sit down with him. Martin Luther King, I say, because again, the time that he lived in as a child, as an adult, and then what he did for the civil rights of this country and really of the world. It takes to put that on your shoulders. It takes an incredible, amazing human to be able to take that and know. I mean, he knew that he was not long for this world, but it did not deter him from doing the work. That is just powerful in itself. And then Steve Jobs, I think Steve Jobs as the ultimate visionary, the ultimate in regards to being able to look forward of what the world will look like, say, 10 years, 20 years from now. And, again, you have Elon Musk that I really think has now taken the forefront in regard to that.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Now, but those would definitely be my three. And like I said, so many more that
I love that question because everyone always has a different response. And even if they say the same name, there's always a different reason why.
Yeah.
And so all three of those names I love. Like they definitely will be in my consideration. I don't know if they'd be my top three, but they definitely would be my consideration of people I'd want to have dinner with. But let me ask, and I don't think I've ever asked this one after they've answered this question. So with Martin Luther King, what period in his life would you want to have dinner with him? Because throughout his life, I think his mentality was different. And the reason why I say this is because I read a book a couple years ago by Travis Smiley. I think it was like last year or my last year. It was chronicling Martin Luther King Jr.'s last life. And it was saying how he was stressed and depressed because at that point, the movement had lost steam. No one was believing in him, all this other stuff, because at that point in time, no one was willing to help him and do things. The NCAACP was running out of money. There was all these different issues. So at what point in time do you think you'd want to have a conversation with him? At what point in his life? Maybe it's a better way of saying that.
I would say probably within that last year, last 6 months, because I could get all of those different areas. I could get asking questions about the, being 16 years old and graduating from college and get into his PhD and the start of the civil rights. And then again, the struggle of the civil rights and the struggle within, having your own, your alliance starting to a certain part. How do you deal with it? So yeah, I would be greedy and I would want it all. So I would give it the last 6 months of life to be able to learn about all of life.
I definitely agree with that. So next question, what makes you feel inspired or like your best self?
So, again, I think my biggest thing is my fulfillment when I'm able to inspire, help others. And again, really, I tap into so many different ventures and different things. I'm not afraid to reach out and learn. And we live in a time, I always tell people, we have the time of the gold rush where millionaires were made. We have the oil boom where millionaires were made. But we live in this digital age right now where billionaires are being made on a daily basis. And for me, 52 years old, I'm not going to be left behind. I'm willing to learn. I want to learn in regards to those areas. And again, that's what drives me. That's what's inspiring to me. And it's something that I want to be able to leave, whether it's leaving a legacy to be remembered by, or also just leaving a legacy for my kids and grandkids and so forth throughout life.
Yeah, definitely 100%, man. So if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
Oh man, that's a good one. I would definitely want it to be something from a standpoint that I'm not sure what the words would be. Well, I know what the words would be, and this is something that's in my book, and it would probably say, "The struggle is real, but so is your greatness." I would want it to be something that inspires people. And thing about it, we've heard the term, "the struggle is real," and we use it all the time. We believe that the struggle is real. But the minute someone tells us that there's greatness in us, we want to look at them side eye. We want to look at them like something's wrong with them. But so my thinking is, okay, if you can believe that the struggle is real, I need you to believe in your greatness as well. So that I think.
Dude, I love that. And I'm going to have to say that quote. I mean, clearly I'll be giving you credit for it, but I love that. That is, oh man, that is cool. I love that because you're right. There's so many times like I could be on social media and you'll see somebody write the struggle is real, or they'll say whatever. And you have these people out here that can believe, as you're saying, that the struggle is real, but for some reason they can't believe their own greatness is real.
Yeah.
So there's that disconnect, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. What's the most important thing you've learned so far in your life and why?
I go back to that what we started with, regret, and never wanting to feel regret about something in my life. And that's really been why I go at things the way that I do. If I have a desire to do something, to achieve something, I go after it, because I know that feeling of regret, like I said, has been the worst feeling that I've ever experienced in my life over something of, like I said, not playing in the NFL and living a life of what if I didn't quit on my dream? What would have life looked like for me? And just so that's really truly it for me.
Oh yeah, I agree, man. Regret is one of those things that I do my best not to.
Mhm.
I think the only things I regret now are things that I can't change, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
so there was a long time ago before I was married, like long time ago. It was like high school, but like there was a girl that I was interested in, and she was hanging out at my house because she was friends with my cousin or something like that. And I had the opportunity to kiss her, and I missed it.
Ah,
And that is one of those things that, I mean, at this point in my life, I'm like, even if I had kissed her, I'm sure nothing would have happened. But it's just one of those things like, regret. you know so but for the most part or not for the most part, I agree with you 100%, man. Like regret is just something that don't do it. There's no point. uh, what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours?
You know, we talked about it a little bit earlier in regards to mentorship.
Hmm.
Tony Robbins has a quote that says, "If you want to be successful, find someone that has achieved the results that you want and copy them until you achieve the same results." And those are words that I live by.
Mm.
And I've learned that, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. If the
Hmm.
wheel is already going, we just find those that have created the success, duplicate their efforts, find the ones that are willing to be a mentor to you.
Hmm.
Again, perfect example, Les Brown, he will give. I mean, he's just constantly giving, and he will give from here, he will give from here, everything
Hmm.
he possibly can, because
Right.
part of his legacy, because what he's doing is he's duplicating himself, where he will live long but beyond his lifetime through
Hmm.
these individuals that he's coaching right now. So there's people out there that want to mentor you and want to see others have success. So that would probably be the first and foremost thing, is find the right mentor for you.
Yeah, agreed. Please find a mentor that sees in you what you see in them.
Mhm.
And like you're saying, any mentor worth their salt is going to be willing to part wisdom into you, because they know how important it is to share that knowledge and share that wisdom. And I could vouch exactly what you're saying. I've seen it firsthand. Les Brown is a genuine, great, awesome soul who would give the shirt off his back if he could and he knew you needed it. He's just a very awesome person. I couldn't say enough about Les Brown. Who are the three people who have been the most influential to you?
So I would definitely say my mother. She or she raised me as a single mom. I think my
Mm,
mom and dad divorced when I was about probably 2 years old.
okay.
While my dad was somewhat in my life, it was really truly my mom that
Hmm.
was there. She instilled some the work ethic, the being responsible. The fact that at 17 years old I was making the decisions that I was making really come from her. My mom is still alive. She's 84 years old now. And I just bought her for Christmas. I just bought her a desktop computer
Hmm.
because what she says, again, 84, and she's learning how to use a computer. And she says,
Nice.
"Hey, because I still got things to do." That. And
Uh-huh.
that's why I tell myself that's my mama right there.
Uh-huh.
And because I know I'm going to be the same way, because when I look
Hmm.
at Les Brown at 75 and he's still going. And so, and it kind of takes me into my number two person, Les Brown.
Hmm.
Uh, it's that inspiration of someone that his kids are telling him, Dad, just take it easy. You're 75 years old now. You've
Right.
battled cancer and overcome
Hmm.
it. Just take it easy. And he's
Yeah.
like, no, I don't have time to take it easy. I'm gonna do, Facebook lives 3-4 times a day every
Yeah.
day. And because I got people that I need to touch. I'm gonna do these Zooms, uh,
Yeah.
teaching these private classes on, every week.
Hmm.
I'm going to put on summit so I can, share with the world these new gifts and talents that I've found all across the world.
Mm.
Again, that drive that he has within him. So he's definitely the number two. And then I would say number three, just off the top of my head, I'm going to go with another person that I think is like 90 now, but kind of for the same reasons, and that's Warren Buffett. When I
Oh,
looked
yeah.
at a documentary on Warren Buffett about 4 years ago, he's 86
Mhm.
years old and the fourth richest man in the world at that
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
But there was this scene where they show him walking from his house to his car,
Mhm.
the vigor and the spryness that he had in his step.
Uh-huh.
Like, man, and he was going to work, and it was like, man, 86 years old, fourth richest man in the world, but he gets up every day and goes at life with an enthusiasm that most of us in our 20s and 30s don't even have. And we're not even happy with the life that we're going into.
Mhm.
So when I saw that, it was just, that's in that moment, I said, I
Mm.
will never just completely retire from doing anything. I'm retired from working for someone else, but I will never be retired to a standpoint where I'm doing nothing, because I saw, what it happens when you have the energy. And all three of those people,
Mhm.
they are really the example of still continuing to live life with vigor and being just inspired to get up and
Mm.
do something on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think all three of those people that you named, and anyone who has, in my opinion, found joy, their purpose, and are just happy
Mhm.
on the inside, they don't want to retire. They want to keep doing what they're doing for as long as they possibly can. So I am with you 100%. I never want to retire being happy and doing what I know my purpose is.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what is the best tip for making the world a better place?
I think it is truly for each and every one of us to find the thing that makes us happy. Les Brown talks about it all the time in regards to Monday is the day that most people have heart attacks. And it's because, Monday morning, about 8 o'clock in the morning, and
Right.
it's because they're preparing to go into a job that doesn't make them happy.
Hmm.
I was one of those people. I remember listening to that and being one of those people. Now, why I did a job that was very fulfilling for many years, and
Hmm.
I cherished the time that I had as a police officer. I knew that I wasn't really truly working in my calling. So I couldn't be happy. Even though it was a great job, even though I enjoyed doing it, it
Hmm.
wasn't my calling. So really going back to what I talked about a minute ago, most important day in your life is the day you were born, the day you find out why. We got
Hmm.
to find that why, because that why lies the happiness that we're all looking for. And I really just speak from experience, because I can tell you the last 7 years of being self-employed, working for myself, I've had some amazing years, and I had one particular year that was devastating, and it was a huge struggle. But I can tell you, through that year, I was still at a I was at a happier state than I had ever been as a police officer, because I was still
Yeah.
working in my calling and doing what it is I loved.
Mm. And I think that's the important key, being happy doing what you love. Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
So, Barry, this question might be a little interesting because, again, you are a very driven person. And as we'd already discussed, even at a young age, you understood that you knew where you wanted to go and you had set aside, or not set aside, you came up with a plan to achieve what you wanted to do. But I'm still going to ask this question anyway, because these are the bite the bullet questions and no question gets skipped. If you could turn back time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him?
I would probably say, okay, you got a plan. I know you're going to execute it. There will be times that come along as you're going through this plan
Mhm.
that fear may creep in, that doubt may creep in.
Mm.
Got to understand that there's a bigger force that's at work when you're having fear and doubt about something.
Mhm.
Just like we have the energy and the spirit of God in us, sometimes we can allow the negative energy of the devil to enter us as well. And recognize when those moments are happening, because it only happens when you are getting close to your goals and close to your vision. That's when he's trying to get you off track. So that would probably be the lessons that I've learned over time that I want my 18-year-old self to know.
That was not an answer I was expecting, and I love that answer because you are 100% correct. Correct. I too have learned that fear is usually the direction that I need to go in. If I'm afraid of something, there's either something over there I need to learn, or that's my destiny, and I need to go that way. So, what are you afraid of, Barry?
I love this because this question changed for me a couple of years ago. So, I used to always tell people before I went to Desert Storm, I was afraid of dying young, because they were talking about this was going to be the next Vietnam, and we were going to have all these casualties of armed forces. But when I got there and I was in the moment of the war, it took me to a place of, okay, I'm not afraid to die. And when I came back and I was a police officer and I did my job, I never had a moment of, I had some scary situations, but I didn't have time to be afraid of dying in those situations. So I just had this fearlessness in regards to death. But then what changed for me is, again, my brother passed away about 5 years ago. He was 58 years old. And it was at a time when I started to figure out what my calling was and my purpose. And now what I say is, I am afraid to die, but there's a caveat. I'm afraid to die and have something left in the tank inside of me. I'm afraid to leave this world with some gifts that I can share with others to inspire. So once again, I've reverse engineered the fear. Is I'm afraid to leave something inside of me, so it fuels me to get everything out. So once again, when I have a desire to start a podcast, I start a podcast. When I have a desire to write a book, I write the book. I don't, put it on, I'm afraid to do this, I'm afraid to do that. No, I'm afraid to not get it done.
Oh, absolutely, my friend. Like, what does our mentor say? Rob the grave. Oh man, exactly. So we only got a few more questions left, and they're going to get harder. All right. All right. If in 150 years science fails to save us all, Barry, the only thing that's left is a book about your life. What would the title be, and what would the back say?
I would say the title would be, probably going back to what I just said, a life finished on E, or a life, just again, being able to get it all out, being able to get it, everything in that I possibly can during this life.
I love that. What would the back say?
Barry Overton was someone that, while, at an early age, gave up on something, he learned how to use that regret of giving up on a dream to fuel the rest of his life, and never giving up, and showing others how to make the biggest impact on their own lives.
I love it. I definitely will pick up that book, man. Definitely. So what are the best resources that have helped you along the way?
It's definitely been mentorship. It's been reading. I look honestly at reading as a form of mentorship as well, because Napoleon Hill, while, like I said, he's been gone 50 years, I still look at him as a mentor for me. It's also, other resources have been just, we live in this age of technology and learning how to use technology. You think about it, what we're doing right now, we would have paid tens of thousands of dollars 20 years ago to have a media platform to be able to share with the world. So using the technology that is here for us to use, to our advantage to build and inspire others.
Definitely. The last question, I always save the hardest question for last. So, where can our listeners connect with you online?
All right. So you can find my book and reach out to me at igniteyourgreatness.com. I am also on Facebook, just as Barry L. Overton, and Instagram as Barry Overton. I keep it simple. And then also LinkedIn at Barry L. Overton as well. And my email address is barry@igniteyourgreatness.com. Feel free to reach out to me there also. And I'm just looking to touch and inspire as many people as I can. So love to meet new people.
Awesome. And I know I said that's the last question, but I have one more question for you because I know I can talk to you forever, Barry, but I want to be respectful of your time. So let me go ahead and ask, are there any final words, any final thoughts before I let you go that you would love to share with the audience right now?
Yeah, I would really just say that you've heard the term, there's greatness in you. Start believing in it. Don't just hear those words, know those words, know that there's greatness in you. Find the gifts and talents that you have and start honing your craft, because there's someone out there, many someones that are waiting to be inspired by you. And I said it earlier, but I always like to leave off. I say it on my own podcast. The last thing that I like to share is, yes, the struggle is real, but so is your greatness.
I love it. I love it. And with that, I don't think I could say anything to top that other than the fact of thank you so much for joining us today, Barry. And thank the audience for tuning in, whether you watched it live or you're watching it when it recycles through. Thank you. And we'll catch you guys later. This has been Bite the Bullet. See you.